Okay, they've initiated the live streaming. We've got 3 minutes till 2.
Hey, Shelley.
Yes,
This is
hi.
Marcella. I sent you a couple of emails.
Recently?
Huh?
In the last couple of days?
Before that, one at you and Karen Dennison.
No, okay.
So can you please look at that?
Sure, I will. I will do that.
Thank you. Well, sorry, Scott, for jumping off. That was Martha about the golf tournament.
So once Dennis starts, I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone. You can again mute and unmute yourself on the pop-up menu on the bottom of your screen. And then there's also an option to raise your hand as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put everyone on mute.
Dennis, we're ready to proceed. If you will unmute your mic.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome everyone. This is Dennis Otsuji. I am the Vice Chair of the Park and Recreation Board. Until further notice, meetings of the Park and Recreation Board will be conducted pursuant to the provisions of California Executive Order 29-20, which suspends certain requirements of the Ralph M. Brown Act. In the interest of public health and safety, board members will participate in meetings by teleconference. As such, and in accordance with the executive order, no members of the public will attend the meetings, but instead view the meetings proceedings via the city's public meeting YouTube channel. In lieu of in-person attendance, members of the public may submit their comments via a public comment web form. Members of the public wishing to address the board under the public comment must submit a web form prior to the meeting. Instructions for word limitation and deadlines will be noted on the web form. Pursuant to open meeting laws, no discussion or action other than referral shall be taken by the board on any brought forth under non-agenda public comments. We're going to do a quick call to confirm committee attendance in alphabetical order. When I call your name, please unmute yourself and say present. Nick Ostopoulos. Nick, are you there?
There we go. Present.
David Barron,
Present, thank you.
John Becker, I believe he's absent. Marcella Bothwell,
Present.
Ron Cho. Believes he's absent. Rick Gully,
Present.
Bobby Hughes. He's absent too. Catherine Johnston is absent, excused. Noli Zosa,
Present.
and I am present. Thank you. Your attendance has been noted. Also joining us today are Parks and Recreation staff, including Andy Field, Director, Ryan Barbrick, Grants and Capital Project Coordinator, John Howard, Golf Course Manager, Nancy Demora Hudson, Executive Assistant, Marcel Aguilar, Supervising Recreation Specialist, Kimberly Carroll, Accountant Clerk. We also have staff from the Department of Information Technology and Engineering and Capital Projects Department to support today's meeting. Before we get into today's agenda, I am going to ask Kimberly Carroll to review some of the guidelines for today's meeting. Go ahead, Kimberly.
Thank you. Good afternoon, board members. You may from previous virtual boards know that we are using Zoom. To reacquaint you with the interface, please note the buttons on the meeting bar that appear when you move your mouse. The camera icon will activate your video. This is optional and uses considerable bandwidth. The microphone will mute and unmute when you click the microphone icon. Remember to mute when not speaking and unmute to speak. The chat button will open the chat window. Please keep the chat window open during the meeting. Type speak in the chat or use raise hand icon to signal that you would like to speak. Type motion if you want to make a motion. Type second if you want to second a motion. Vice Chair Otsuji will call on speakers based on the order shown in the chat or in the list of raised hands. To comply with the Brown Act, you should only the chat should only be used to signal that a participant would like to speak, make a motion, or second the motion. All motions and second motions must be verbalized by the committee member. Thank you. Now back to Vice Chair Otsuji.
Thank you. Now that we have reviewed the meeting logistics for today, let's get into today's agenda items. First, we have the approval of the September 17th, 2020 minutes. I hope everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from the September meeting. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the minutes as they are? If you would, please type motion on the chat window.
I don't have a chat window, but I can make the.
Yes. Can you make the motion and state your name? Then maybe that's the best.
Rick Gully just made the motion.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of the previous meeting.
Second.
David Barron will second it.
So David Barron seconded and Rick Gully made the motion. All in, make sure I'm doing this correctly. We now have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Now we will take a vote. Nick Anastopoulos,
Aye.
David Barron,
Aye.
John Becker is absent. Marcella Bothwell,
Yes.
Ron Cho is absent. Rick Gully,
Aye.
Bobby Hughes is absent. Catherine Johnston is absent. Noli Zosa,
Abstain. I wasn't present at the last meeting.
thank you. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Approval. 1, 2, 3. 3 absent. 1 abstaining. So the motion passes with a vote of 7 to approve, 3 absent, and 1 to abstain. Thank you. Non-agenda public comments. We will now move to non-agenda public comments. The public was invited to submit public comments on agenda and non-agenda items by web form accessible through the agenda and the Park and Recreation website. Marisol Aguila and Kimberly Carroll will read aloud public comments submitted per city public comment protocol. Were there any public comments?
Yes, there's one. So this is Kimberly Carroll. Go ahead and read the public comment we received.
Kimberly, excuse me, this is Nancy. I believe that non-public comment is for the next meeting, for the meeting, for the park improvement.
Apologies. Read it then.
So there is no public
So-
comments for this.
No public comments.
Okay, thank you. Requests for continuance. Are there any requests for items to be continued for the next meeting? I believe there is none. Committee reports, Committee Park 1 Area Committee. There was a meeting, but nothing of any good consequence on my part. Community Park 2 Area Committee, Bobby Hughes is absent. Balboa Park Committee, Catherine Johnston is absent. Mission Trails Regional Park Citizens Advisory Committee, Noli, you have Noli or
There's no
Marcel?
meeting. There's no meeting.
Thank you. Chairperson's report. I have nothing. Board member comments. Do any board members have comments that they would like to make for today's meeting? Ray, you can just raise your hand or none.
Yeah, Marcella.
I just wanted to say, as part of the San Diego Parks Foundation, which maybe it would be nice to have it be a regular part of this meeting, like one of the committees, but that's up to you, Chairman or Vice Chairman. 2, the Parks Foundation has sold out on our golf tournament, so thank you to the golf division. We have, as far as Wi-Fi, we have done now 12 or 13 of the 25 teen centers that we've already pledged to do. And so their Wi-Fi is up and working. So I'm very proud of that. We are also getting involved with the county, and thank you to the park rangers for coming and pulling together 3 self-guided tours for San Diego's contribution to the County Green Friday. So we're very excited about that. More next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcella. Director's report.
Thank you, Vice Chair Otsuji. Before I begin, I was just notified that Mr. Hughes is attempting to enter this, but has not been able to get access. Between Marisol and Shelley, do you think you guys could reach out to Mr. Otsuji to Mr. Hughes and get him access to the meeting? He's evidently watching on YouTube currently.
I'll go ahead and email him.
Very good, thank you. With that, I'll begin the director's report. First, want to give everyone an update on where we stand with the coronavirus and the COVID-19 pandemic. As you may be aware, the County of San Diego is now on the purple tier, which means that we are now going through a process of reducing some of the activities that had previously been available for opening. Indoor activities are restricted under the purple tiers, and this is due to the case rate. There is a triggers dashboard that the County of San Diego has that suggests that the case rate per 100,000 people has gone over 10 cases. And that number is well in excess of the benchmark of 7 cases, which is the division point between red and purple tier. As we are on purple tier, we do expect that there will be no further reopenings of recreational centers or additional programs offered until such time that we're able to clear out of the purple tier. So we will see how that transpires over the next several weeks and months. But I do think that we're going to be seeing an interesting time ahead of us as we go into winter, and the number of daylight hours are few. We also have seen over the past several months, in terms of the 50 Parks Initiative, which began in 2016, 41 parks completed out of the 50, and then the remaining 50, all 9 of the others are in various stages of design and construction. We're very proud to have this overarching achievement for the City Parks Department and for our park system and for our residents and citizens over the past 5 years. The most recently opened facility was Longfellow K-8 joint use, and there's a new park opening in Mission Valley behind the Town and Country hotel complex. It's actually open for public use and is very close to being accepted by the city. Other new facilities that have come online recently include the completion of the Palisades project in Balboa Park. That is the conversion of the southern parking lot into a plaza-like experience. And the northern parking lot was completely repaved and restriped for parking purposes. This resulted in a full conversion of ADA accessible parking and a much enhanced tram stop that will serve the Palisades area. If you have a chance to go check it out while social distancing and wearing your face covering, I would encourage you to do so. The Maruta Gardner Playground in Mission Bay Park, West Benita Cove, opened last week. It is unique in that it has a large play structure that's designed to emulate the adjacent Giant Dipper roller coaster over at Belmont Park. And what's neat about it is that the rope structure there enables kids to climb up to the top of the structure and be able to see from there across the park towards the Giant Dipper roller coaster, and also be able to get a chance to crawl across the top, which I actually did last weekend, and go to one of the dips to get back off of the structure. So if you haven't seen that, I encourage you to do so. The color scheme is designed to evoke cotton candy. It's a sort of a purpley pinky sort of a color. We've also are going to be celebrating the opening of the Bay Terraces Senior Center in the Bay Terraces Community Park. Some of you may be familiar with this location, as we've made an investment in partnership with the San Diego Parks Foundation to add trees and improve the entryway garden at Bay Terraces. That effort is nearing completion, and the building is also nearing completion. Unfortunately, we cannot open it under the current COVID-19 restrictions, but we are planning on some kind of announcement as to when the building is officially done, to at least acknowledge that it's out there and ready to be used, so that once the COVID-19 restrictions are reduced, it'll be ready for public usage. Another major project that's pending is the Botanical Building. We're happy to announce in our partnership with the Balboa Park Conservancy that the request for proposals is now out on the street, and we anticipate in the next couple of months to have that project move forward into the design build phase with the award of a contractor. More to come on that project in 2021 as we move forward with that ambitious project. In our partnership with the San Diego Parks Foundation, Marcella did a good job of covering quite a bit of it. But one thing I did want to note is the food distribution program, where department staff in cooperation with the Parks Foundation and with food providers have done a wonderful job of offering food to those that are in need.
I think it's over 100,000 meals now.
It's huge. It's an amazing number that have been served. And it's been a great way for our staff to serve the community during the pandemic and to assure that those who don't have access to food on a regular basis may get some for themselves and for their kids as part of the offerings that we are able to provide at multiple locations. I did want to acknowledge also the Pacific Beach Town Council, which last night recognized one of our own, Park Ranger Araceli Dominguez, for her work at the shoreline in Pacific Beach. She was so instrumental in making things happen during the course of the pandemic, but also has been very quick to help and provide information to park patrons. We are very, very excited that she was recognized last night by the town council and appreciate all of her hard work and just want to give her a shout of appreciation. And finally, I'd like to close with news of one of our long-term employees, Mark Marney, Deputy Director of the Golf Operations Division. Mark is retiring as of December 1st. We are very sad to see him go, but we also know that he will be enjoying retired life quite well. And we hope to see him out on the golf course with the upcoming Farmers Open and with the US Open coming in June. So congratulations, Mark, on your retirement. We'll absolutely miss you and wish you all the best. And I'm sure the many golf staff who are here today will also want to share their appreciation. And with that, that concludes my report, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Now we have, we will go, now we will go to the action items. First one is item number 101, Three Roots Community Park GDP. And I will turn it over to Allegra Parisi and Andrew Stein.
Good afternoon, Mr. Atsuji. Andrew, would you please share your screen? Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Atsuji and members of the Park and Rec Board. I'm Frank Hunt, park designer with the Park and Rec Department. Accompanying me today is Allegra Parisi, project manager for Three Roots Development Team, Andrew Steen, representing the park design team on behalf of RJM, and Scott Sandell with the planning department is available to answer any questions about the general development plan process. We are here today to request recommendation to approve the Three Roots Community Park General Development Plan, also known as the GDP. City staff recommends approval of the proposed GDP. Community involvement for the proposed GDP conform to the process outlined in Council Policy 600-33. On October 16th, 2018, the Mira Mesa Recreation Council, the recognized community group at the time, voted 11-1 to recommend approval of the proposed GDP. Now I invite Allegra and Andrew to speak on the background and design community park GDP.
Thank you so much, Frank. Andrew, can you go to the next slide, please? Next one. Thank you very much, City of San Diego Park and Rec Board. This has been a project a long time in the making. So for the past 3 years, we've been working with the City of San Diego. It started, the site is located in Mira Mesa. in between Miramar Road and Mira Mesa Boulevard, and bordered by Camino Santa Fe. For over 60 years, this 412-acre site was a mining operation. Mining ceased in 2016. However, when the mining operation was undergoing, there was always a master plan conceived for the site that contemplated a full mixed-use community. Within that, there was always contemplated a community park. In December of 2017, Mesa Canyon Community Partners, who is a team made up of Lennar Homes, Shea Homes, and California West Homes, acquired the site unentitled and unimproved, meaning that the site was still a former aggregate quarry that had been ceased operation. The team worked with the city of San Diego for over 3 years to get a new master plan entitled, really tiered off of the old one. But one of the biggest changes that was made in the master plan process was to come up with a home for a 23-acre community park. That idea was actually birthed by the community, and really was the nexus of years of research that we did with the community of Mira Mesa, working closely with the planning group and the recreational advisory group. And because that group was so active, during our entitlement process, we actually accelerated the GDP process 600-33 with the city and on behalf of the city with the Mira Mesa Recreational Advisory Group. So I'll get you into a little bit more of the site plan. Andrew, could you take me to the next slide, please? So this project was fully certified with an EIR as recently as September, and we had our second city council reading. It is important to note we had unanimous planning commission approval, as well as unanimous city council approval and unanimous community planning group approval for the project. The park had an 11-1 vote, but we worked really closely, and to just understand kind of the context of where this park sits. It's a 400-acre site. We have 8 miles of publicly accessible trails. There'll be a root collective, which is a 19-acre district with about 160,000 square feet of shops, 1,800 residential units, 10% on-site affordable, 200 acres preserved open space, which includes the restoration of Carroll Creek, and 40 acres of publicly accessible parks. So this is something we work closely with Park and Rec on. The 23-acre, it says 25 here, but it's a 23-acre public community park. Actually all going to be owned by the city and maintained by the city, but built by the Three Roots team. Everything else in that 40 acres that's publicly accessible will be owned and maintained by the HOA. So the EIR has been fully certified for the project, which includes the certification of the GDP. So that approved GDP plan was submitted and part of our environmental impact analysis. Andrew, why don't you go to the next slide? So just to locate it, it's that green banana shape that's south of Carroll Canyon Road. Directly to the south of that, you'll see a gray shape that is designated open space, but it's not within the MHPA. We got that question a lot during the design process and in working with the city. So that's that 23-acre shape. Would you like to go to the next transition? And you can see at the top, this is an excerpt from our master plan development permit, 23 acres, 23.9 acres is the gross acreage. All of it is usable acres, meaning less than 2% slope. And the ownership is by City of San Diego and the maintenance is by City of San Diego. So there's no recreation easement that will be applied. Andrew, you want to go to the next one? And I think I'm handing this directly off to you. Go ahead. And we will be available for questions as needed.
Thank you, Allegra. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the GDP park planning process that we started The Three Roots has been working with the City of San Diego to lead this GDP process and a public engagement strategy. We conducted community workshops to gather feedback from the community, to have ultimate buy-in and show transparency in terms of the design process and actually find the desires of the community itself. To date, there have been 3 public informational meetings hosted at the Mira Mesa Recreational Council, and the goal is to start delivering facilities by 2022. The public park, it could be constructed in multiple phases, but the city of San Diego will manage the design, use, maintenance, and programming of the public park. Funding for the community park will be a combination of both private and public funds. And the park construction and land dedication is subject to the project approvals and environmental clearance, which we've now gained. So our first meeting was June 12th, 2018. It was part of the collecting the community input. It was at the multi-purpose room of the Jonas Salk Elementary School next to Maddox Park. There we shared the background project information in terms of opportunities and constraints of the site, and just gave everyone a little bit of a general orientation of the site. And that fostered the workshop to hear everyone's ideas and discussion topics, which we gathered in both individual responses that they filled out on sheets and also then shared with each group. We had approximately 50 community members there. So we broke up into 6 groups, I believe it was, with 8 to 9 members per group, going over the likes and dislikes of what their vision was, the facilities that they wanted within their park, within this larger community park. And then the final part of the process of that workshop was to have a hands-on design charrette with group presentations. So we have what we like to call little paper dolls of all different kinds of park amenities, whether that's baseball fields, soccer fields, comfort stations, parking areas, playgrounds, things of that sort, so that they could move them around and decide as a group how they would lay out their park. And as you can see in these 6 slides here, there are 6 different interpretations of what the park would be, what the park could be. And they're color coded to each one. You can see the green ones are in the shape of ball fields, whereas the yellow elongated blobs are more of a parking element. And so what we do with these unique group plans created by the groups was to develop a consensus plan. And we presented this on August 14th, our second community meeting, where we shared the results. So you see, we formed a consensus plan by overlaying all of the group plans together and start to get an idea of where things can lay out and make sense together to form a cohesive park. So you can see the elements that were brought in here. We have baseball fields, parking, as I mentioned, soccer fields. There's also informal gathering areas, community center, picnic shelters, all kinds of typical park elements in a community park. So from this, we developed a more concrete conceptual plan. We actually developed 2 to allow the community to vote on. So the central difference between the 2 plans is the location of the community center, which we thought would be kind of the central focus of the park. And then there is one plan here. You see it located more in the center of the park versus another one, the orange building, the community center, towards the eastern end of the park. As you can see by the number of dots that were placed on each plan, a paper plan that we had up for exhibit in the community meeting, the workshop meeting, they selected by a vote of 28 to 18, the plan that had the community center in the center of the park, centrally focused. So with that in mind, we again refined the idea and met with the community once again on September 11th, 2018 to present the design, which we took a step further by adding elements of sports field lighting, shade structures over the bleachers, as well as throughout the park for picnic shelters. We also added some ball field netting, which is the narrow lines in blue to protect observers and attendees to the baseball games, and just the general safety of people walking along the trails. And you can see how the park starts to take shape here. We have the 4 baseball fields. We have 3 soccer fields, there's full court basketball with 2 half courts on the ends. There's 2 playgrounds that are in different parts of the park. And we also had several, 2 comfort stations, as well as ample parking for the park and a maintenance facility towards the end. On the opposite bookend, we also were able to fit in a dog park with some of the acreage that we had that was kind of split up with this water quality basin, which I'll circle back to it in a moment later in the presentation.
And the only thing I'd like to interrupt, Andrew, is actually we have 3 comfort stations. One is a combination concessions, and that one is located over here. So we have a comfort station that was requested by the play area, a comfort station requested by the dog area, and then a combination comfort and concession station. You can see that in the legend. And the only other thing that I'd like to add while we're talking about this is the recreation center site that is located in the center of the plan. This is an allocation for, excuse me, this is an allocation for a future recreation center. So the project will not be building that out. We'll be setting aside and dedicating that land for the city to develop a future FBA project. And that was specifically how it was expressed in the GDP. So it's a recreation center footprint, and you'll see that in the table here. It says future recreation center. So Andrew, keep going. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make
that's okay. Thank you for the clarification. So on October 16th, we met for a 4th time to get the vote, GDP vote. During this time leading up to this meeting, we met with the City of San Diego Parks and Recreation Department to do a design review and incorporate their comments into the design. We used the Park and Recreation development standards for sports fields on the backstops and their construction. And the most notable comment you'll see from the Park and Recreation Department is the flip of the ball fields from north-facing batter to south-facing batter. Now, what this does is this brings all of the backstop, the central meeting areas of the baseball fields to the side of the parking of the Carroll Canyon Road side versus the south side, which kind of brings everyone together along that corridor versus along the open space. So you can still see that the acreage is actually smaller at this time, 23.65 versus the 23.9 that we're up to now. And that was a process of working through the
Andrew,
size of the water.
I'm going to step in and explain this part just for the group. So when we were processing our entitlements, there was an irrevocable offer to dedicate for an expansion of Carroll Canyon Road to accommodate a center-aligned bus. Between our GDP approval and our final EIR, we were asked to widen the road. So we needed to, when we knew this going into our GDP, so we needed to allocate a space for the IOD, which is the 1.14 acres. You'll see that directly south of Carroll Canyon Road. And what that did is it established an acreage that was the target acreage, but we were ensured to not put any program elements in there should the irrevocable offers to dedicate be decided by both the city and MTS at any time. So one of the only changes that we've made to the plan subsequently, but was part of our entire and subsequent to the GDP, but prior to our entitlement, was to reclaim the IOD as part of the road. So Andrew, why don't you go to the next slide so we can show how the reverse ball fields and the change of the IOD changed the GDP. So here we go now. And it is very important to note that the total final GDP approved, the GDP acres and the acres that were approved in our entitlement document were 23.91. And we did not remove any program elements. We will not have an IOD running through the park. And it also is something that Andrew didn't mention, but we've been emphasized to mention to your team, is that the water quality basin, which is affiliated with the acre, it is not part of the 23.91 acres. So you're really getting net usable acres and gross acres are essentially the same thing. So the only change that we made to the plan here with this IOD realignment is to the dog park. So Andrew, why don't you take them directly to the new dog park configuration?
Okay, since Allegra commented there about the BRT station. I'm sorry, there's a few slides here about the future recreation center.
So this
The
is,
size of,
yeah, this speaks to what we were just talking about, how the future recreation center site will be dedicated by Three Roots. It will be 1.22 acres, can fit a 20,000 square foot building. And it will be all turf when it's delivered to the city.
okay, so here is the section that was worked on quite a bit in regards to the water quality basin and how that fit within the site. And then the dog park area, we were able to bring it all together versus having it spread out. The water quality basin will be maintained by the HOA, and like Allegra said, it is not a part of the park acreage. So as you can see, we started with a very small dog park that was segmented from the rest of the park due to the way the IOD would break up the land. So we kept tweaking it, and we were trying to use as much space as possible to create potential dog runs, but you can still see it's very segmented. Whereas now we've been able to shove the water quality basin to an area where we can grab all of the dog park areas and bring them together to one central location where there's a main entrance for the 3 areas that we have now. We have a beginner dog area for newcomers and puppies, for a small dog area that is 31,000 square feet, and a large dog area that is almost 33,000 square feet. And this allows everything to be more compacted in terms of bringing everyone to the same space. It's a centralized entry into the areas with distinct defined areas that will be fenced. You can see the lines between each, and it minimizes the sprawl of the site. So now the whole park is in the major part of the park versus it being spread out. And of course, as Allegra stated, the dog park size did not reduce. We did not reduce any of the park elements. So the following are some renderings that we prepared through a 3D modeling program of the park. This looks from behind the comfort station and concession stand against the 2 ball fields. You can see the soccer fields and the sports lighting. And the next image will bring us down to here in, I guess, pre-COVID and post-COVID days with the amount of people here shown. But you can see how the space interacts with the ball fields. And of course, some soccer fields and night lighting, how there's a field overlay with the ball field that you see in the background there. And this is the more compacted dog park where we could have dog amenities in there in the larger and small dog areas, not the beginner dog areas. And then this is again, this is the end of our site, which is the undercrossing leads this trail to the other side, safely to the other side of Carroll Canyon Road underneath. The water quality basin is located roughly here. So this trail loops around and then back down to the park, the major part of the park. The following images we have here are for park furnishing materials and styles. These represent the general character of the contemporary park amenities that we're proposing. Specific materials, colors, detailing will be coordinated and approved by City of San Diego park staff before proceeding with final design. So as I mentioned before, baseball fields, safety netting, the baseball containment netting is a crucial part of keeping everyone safe on a large community park like this with trails running alongside. Soccer fields, same thing, at least on the ends of the soccer fields where there's where the goals and the balls are being shot for the most part. And also you can see field overlay that I discussed before with soccer fields overlaying on ball fields to make everything work and fit. Passive landscapes and trails that we have along the natural corridor to the south and throughout the park. Also some different play structures, some more contemporary play structures with agility climbing with ropes, some unique things. These again would all be from approved play equipment vendors like Landscape Structures as part of the Park Designer's Guide, Consultant's Guide to Designing Parks in the City. We also were thought of including dexterity play structures for exercising and just, again, developing agility. This could be installed on a decomposed granite or resilient surfacing material, but it will not be on synthetic turf. Also, we'll want to incorporate some shade over the play equipment to make sure that we have some protection from the sun. Again, this would be from Landscape Structures, who the city has a relationship with. This is some of the architecture that we're considering for the project. The shipping containers developed into shade structures, and these would be a custom built item. They will not be manufactured. They're not off the shelf items. There's been quite a lot of use of these containers for bandstands and concession stands and shade structures. We're also talking with a local vendor in San Diego, Primo Wind, who uses wind power and solar power to create kind of little nooks that are charging stations and have benches there that are all incorporated to use eco-friendly energy systems. Here's some character images of the dog park, again, where we would have large and small dog areas in addition to the beginner areas. We could have some dog agility amenities in there, use decomposed granite surfacing, and then of course have some shade over the seating areas that we include within the dog park areas for owners. Here's a variety of benches that we would use. We were considering using recycled plastic material. There'd be no use of wood. So all of these products can come in a recycled plastic material. And that would be for all of these furnishings. The picnic tables, again, a contemporary style picnic table, bench, trash receptacle. Again, these are recycled plastic, even though the image may look like wood. Some offerings of drinking fountains with the various ADA required high and low and bottle fillers. That's become very popular, as well as having a dog bowl for our four-legged friends that are visiting the park. Barbecue grills and ash containers, ash receptacles. Park signage, the city has park monument signage. That's a standard that we would incorporate into the park, as well as using some wayfinding signage due to the size of the park, directional signage. Also, again, safety signage and field identification could all be part of the sign package for the community park as well. For the sports lighting, we would use the latest LED cutoff lights from Musco. We had them laid out on the GDP plan, as you can see, and we'd be overlapping the fields and we'd be overlapping the usage of the lights. But the cutoff on these lights is fantastic. It really goes right to the edge of the field or exactly where you want it, and does not provide any light pollution or overspill of the light. Really great quality stuff right now. Some examples of the pedestrian and security lighting that we would have throughout the park. The lights that would be based in the parking lot area would probably be on concrete pedestals, just to protect them from bumpers and things of that sort. Again, the shipping containers to use for concession and comfort stations, we could modify these into specific areas for the contemporary architecture style of the project. Again, these are custom built, not manufactured, and this is a design goal. It's not a specification. This would also apply to bandstands if we were to use these within the community gathering spaces. And the last few images here are of the field storage and maintenance yard that would be on the eastern end of the facility. It would be walled and gated off so that the maintenance facilities and materials are all on site. They wouldn't have to be brought in, and as well as the equipment and storage and things of that stuff. as well as the trash enclosures, which would have an overhead steel roof, corrugated steel roof. We also have a concrete apron for heavy equipment, heavy vehicle loading, and the walls would receive anti-graffiti coating. And that concludes the presentation on the Three Roots Community Park. If you have any questions, please let the Laker and I know, and we'll do our best to answer them.
I have a couple questions, David Barron here.
Could you hold on a minute? We're going to get public comment first, I believe, so you'll get your turn shortly. Is there any public comments for this agenda item? Staff?
Mr. Osuji, there are no public comments for this action item.
Okay, thank you. So David, go ahead.
Thank you. I think this is a great presentation, and I wish we had a park like this in Normal Heights where I live. It looks like it's going to be fantastic. I just have 3 questions. I'll give you all 3, and then you can answer them. So what will the ground cover for the dog park be? And will the ball fields have fences? And will the lights be acceptable for baseball or only softball? Thank you.
Those are all really great questions. So I'll answer the first one about the dog park. Andrew, do you mind showing that new dog park image? We went through this a couple times back and forth with Park and Rec. I think what we're hearing now is that DG is the preferred City of San Diego specification. And that's what we're assuming right now. It's definitely not grass. So it is decomposed granite. David, does that answer that first question?
Yes, I think that's much better than when they do the wood chips.
Yeah.
The wood chips aren't good for their paws. And I think the DG is better.
That's exactly, I think, what we heard when we were meeting individually with the Park and Rec. So that's the intent for the first one.
Thank you.
The second one was about the sports lighting. So what we're going to be doing in the, could you, Andrew, why don't you go to the general plan? I think that would be the best one to go to. The sports lighting that we're specifying, it's going to have lights on multiple levels. So we're going to consolidate, do fewer poles, but more types of light. And what that gives us the ability to do is have lights at different heights. Different heights cater to different sports. So we've worked with our jam on past projects, and that's been the way that we'll try to execute that so that it's good for everyone.
Okay. And will there be like outfield fences on all the fields or just a couple of the fields?
We have that outlined. It's very small and hard to read. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrew, and he'll be able to show with his cursor exactly where that is. But we do have them. No, thank you. Great question. Andrew, you wanna show them where the outfield fence goes?
Yeah, the intent, at least right now, is to have permanent sideline fences with ball containment netting that would meet into the backstop. So it would be protection on, let's say, 3 sides, where the outfield side would be more like a temporary fence due to the fact that we have the field overlays with the soccer fields. But roughly, the outfield we would have out here, and then this would be a solid chain link fence all the way to the backstop, all the way through, and then to the other side, just on that field, for example.
So
but that would be.
So the league would be responsible for putting in like a temporary roll-up fence the morning of the game and then taking it out when the game's over?
That's the intent around in the outfield.
Okay, thank you.
Especially when there's those 2 fields that are split, because the likelihood or the practicality of having baseball and soccer happen at the same time when there's overlap is pretty much limited. So I don't think we'd be affecting anybody.
So will there be stuff put into the ground to take those temporary fences so the temporary fence can be put in and taken out?
No, we're going to have to work with Park and Rec on that detail. And I don't know what will be, what the city will like, because sometimes it affects the maintenance. But I think that's something that we'll definitely look into and we'll definitely hear from what the city, what they want to do in terms of a suggestion on that detail.
Thank you.
Like in beds. I don't know if they're okay with that or not, right?
I know they've done that at the Mid-City ball fields in Normal Heights.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Great
usually I've seen cargo containers out on the sidelines where they store those things.
Oh, we have some cargo containers, so it would fit in with the theme.
Good.
I have a question if.
Go
I don't
ahead.
know. Okay. Beautiful, absolutely stunning, beautiful. And Merritt Mesa is very lucky to have it. I just had 2 questions. I spent some time with the group who's concerned about senior activities and programming today, and I didn't hear any mention of what you're planning to do there, specifically, you know, benches along walkways that are senior friendly, that, you know, you don't have to look down. So I'd like to see something on that. And 2, I just want to ask Andy about the $500,000 a year for maintenance. And is that standard? Is this a particularly large park that needs $500,000 for maintenance? So those are my 2 questions.
Well, I'll answer the first one about the seniors, and then we can punt to Andy if that's okay. So it's a great point. And I'm sorry, it's been such a fine line with these presentations because they have been so sports focused. But we had a lot of senior representation with those purple dots at the GDP meetings, not just the sports teams. So you'll see on this site plan that there's actually this perimeter loop trail that goes all the way around. And there will be benches all along that trail. And one of the things too that we created that is not part of the GDP process, but definitely informs it as context, is that undercrossing, right? So what this does is this isn't limiting the public's access or the seniors' access for this walking loop. It actually connects to a larger ecosystem that all age groups will be able to access, that's part of that HOA maintained, but public recreation easement. So there's a larger story there. The other thing is the bandstand. That was actually a request by some of the senior members of the community. So that happens, it's going to be kind of twofold. This presentation area for sports awards, but also a bandstand should there want to be programming for seniors, for dancing and things like that. That's kind of the items that came up. And then the seniors were also really excited about the separation and proximity of the small to the large dog parks, but the proximity to parking. And the other senior request was we added to that 3rd restroom feature because we originally had 1 restroom and 1 restroom / concession. And a lot of the seniors are taking their grandkids to the parks and really wanted to add that 3rd restroom. So that was something that was added at request to fulfill the senior areas and kind of separating the play area and the corner tip of the site away from the ball fields if people want to walk and not be part of that.
Good, thank you.
No problem. Andy, I can't answer about the maintenance. I don't want to.
Yes, thank you. The maintenance of the park will be provided by the city, and a park of this size easily can be a very expensive endeavor. You may have seen the city council approval of the Riverwalk development that just occurred. 3 Roots went to council a few weeks beforehand, and then after that, Riverwalk went. Riverwalk, for instance, is going to have a very large facilities district that taxes the people that live there to pay for a portion of the maintenance of the facility because of the expected high water use because of the amount of turf there. So we are trying to move in the direction of negotiating these sorts of things when possible. So so in terms of the estimation of cost, there's a great deal of turf that is here. We also know there's going to be a heightened interest to keep the sports field at a high level of playability. So that really drives into the budget. A 24-acre park is a pretty good sized community park. The linear nature of it makes it seem like it's smaller, but it's actually quite big. And we're very excited to see it come forward. So hopefully that answers your question.
I do want to just add to that, Andy, we don't have a community facilities district at all as part of 3 Roots.
No, that's correct. Right.
Okay.
I just wanted
to make sure that we knew that.
Andy, this is Nick. I have another question on the future recreation center. Is that something that the city can plan on fairly soon, or is that a long lead item?
It is something that is in between a long lead item and being something that can happen relatively soon. The key is the rate of development in the Mira Mesa community and the determination of how quickly facility benefit assessment funds can be found to pay for the construction of that facility. So it'll be in just a passive lawn area to start with. And then later, as funding is identified, then it can be designed and constructed under a separate project down the road based on the facility benefit assessment that's collected, which is a form of development impact fee within Mira Mesa.
Is it possible to even put a trailer on site so you have some supervision on site early on?
Well, anything's possible, Nick. I think we're going to be looking carefully at this site to figure out what the best avenue is to operate it. And we may start out smaller, especially since it's likely the park itself will be constructed. I'm now speaking for Allegra. I guess it would be in phases, right, Allegra?
You know, we're gonna try to construct it all at once. The only thing we wouldn't construct, obviously, is the rec center. But sometimes it has to do with when the city wants to accept certain fields. You know, so it could be, we'll deal with that on a case-by-case basis. But our intention would be to deliver it and build it all at once. And that's how we will submit our design plans as one phase.
Okay. All right. I just think that supervision would be necessary for scheduling the fields and the lights and all of that.
We will supervise it out of the Mira Mesa Recreation Center to start, the Gil Johnson Center. And then later on, we would operate it through this recreation center once it's constructed. Thanks.
Good.
Any other comments? I have a couple. Number one, I'd like to emphasize again the rec center. I think it should and will play an important role for this park. So hopefully the funding and the planning of that occurs sooner than later. I think it's going to play an important role. I believe the community really wanted it, but it was based on, you know, where the money was spent. So that was understandable. Secondly, maintenance is very, very important. The $500,000 that was mentioned, that's nothing. To me, when you budget this amount of money for this park, which is close to 25 acres, I think it's important that the maintenance have a high priority in regards to the park itself, because many times, if you go back to that park in a couple of years, you won't even recognize it. So hopefully we will be able to find additional funding and mechanism for maintenance. And I think that's being discussed citywide in regards to that side of it. Number three, I think you did a very good job in integrating being close to the multiple species areas. I think that was an important issue because of the very active activities that you have. It's not passive that you have along here. And I think the buffer and the transition, I think you did a great job on that. One of the things that I emphasized for this entire master plan of this community was the point that you really need to address the climate action plan and specifically the tree canopy of this community and of this park. And I made a big emphasis of that when I heard this at Planning Commission. I think it's important that this be integrated in there and be a part of it. And lastly, I think the success of this design in this community was a team effort. Number one, you had the great support of the community, but at the same time, the team that was put forth and the private developers completely understood the importance of the feedback from the community. And I believe the community really appreciated that opportunity that was given to them. And it's turned out very well. And lastly, this park is part of the park system for this community. If you look at the overall park system, it's very integrated with connections, both from a pedestrian standpoint bicycle, and auto. So I think you've done a great job in regards to that, and wish you well down the road.
Well, thank you so much, Dennis. And the only thing too we want to add to that is, aside from great community support and some really special community leaders, the city has really been incredible in shepherding a difficult and long process, from Park and Rec to engineering to planning. So they were instrumental in doing this. So we really appreciate all around. So thank you for that. And we really look forward to delivering this facility for the community.
So we're going to look for a great park at the end when it's constructed.
Yeah.
One last thing, which I mentioned when I reviewed this back when, I would like for you to add in your planting palettes some pine trees.
Okay.
There was
Dennis,
none-
can I make one more
none
comment?
mentioned.
Dennis, can I make one more comment? I think 500,000 is plenty, but I'm just continuously concerned that the park's overall budget isn't increased, and yet our maintenance needs keep going up. And so I think we need to find some way to be able to find more money in the city budget, although it's not going to happen now, for maintenance. I mean, we can't just keep adding this kind of cost and not expanding the budget.
Marcella, I agree with you. When I started designing parks a long time ago, we had great budgets, and you should have seen the beauty of these parks. And as we have progressed, it's gone the other way. And, you know, I've had discussions of, you know, when are we going to change the direction? I think they're slowly going in that direction, understanding the uses of it and emphasizing the impact that the maintenance has on these parks. So, you know, give it a little bit more patience, and I think you'll see great improvements. With that, I will accept a motion, and
this is Nick, I will make the motion to accept the plan as presented.
Second, Rick.
Who is the second?
Rick Gully.
Okay. Are there any other questions? With that, I will take the vote. Nick Anastopoulos,
Aye.
David Barron,
Aye.
John Becker is absent. Marcella Bothwell. Marcella?
Yes.
Ron Cho is absent. Rick Gully?
Yes.
Bobby Hughes. Was Bobby able to get on? You know? I guess
Yeah,
not.
he was able
I
to
believe
get
he
on.
was.
Bobby, are you online? I guess not. Okay. Catherine Johnston is absent. Noli Zosa?
Yes.
Okay. The motion passes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 8 to 1, 2, 8 to 3.
Yeah, this is Bobby Hughes. I'm finally back online. That's a yes.
Thank you, Bobby. How you doing?
Doing fine.
Can we get the plan off the screen and go back to the faces? There we are.
So the motion passed. The next we have is an information item.
Dennis, if I could interject just for a second. Staff, do you agree with the tally of there being 8 in favor and 3 opposed? I thought there was 3 absent. Down 7 in favor and 0 opposed, or not here.
Oh, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
There's no one opposed.
There's no one opposed. It's absent.
Just absent, right?
Yes, yes. So it would have been unanimous if everybody was here.
Yeah, I think we have 7 board members currently present. Nancy, is that your understanding as well?
And can we accept Bobby's
Now
vote?
that Yes, now that Mr. Hughes voted, that would be correct.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Would you like me to repeat the vote?
Please.
Yeah.
Okay. Nick, yes. David, yes. John Becker, absent. Marcella, yes. Ron Cho, absent. Rick Gully, yes. Bobby Hughes joined, and I believe he said yes. Catherine Johnston, absent. Sosa, yes. And Dennis Osuchi, yes.
So that's 1, 7 yes, and 1, 2, 3 absent, correct?
Correct. I think that's correct. Nancy, can you also reconfirm who made the motion and seconded it, please?
I have Nick and Noli.
Right.
Thank you all very much. Andy and or Frank, will somebody be following up with us about the next steps of what we need to be doing? And if so, who should we reach out to?
Allegra, please reach out to Frank. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you, guys. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.
You.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next is an information item, the Golf Division Business Plan update, and it will be presented by John Howard.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate you all taking the time today to chat with us regarding the Golf Division Business Plan. As you know, we come here on an annual basis to discuss things that have been going on throughout the Golf Division. Today, we're going to be looking at some of the things that have been happening at our courses over the last year, our golf rounds data, some financial information, as well as some progress that we've had on some of our business plan initiatives. You know, one of the things that I think is one of the biggest strengths for our division is the portfolio of golf courses that we manage. You know, between Balboa Park Golf Course, Mission Bay, and Torrey Pines, this is honestly a golf operator's dream. I mean, Balboa Park Golf Course is honestly one of the most historic golf courses that we have here in the region. Mission Bay is one where, you know, anybody can feel comfortable in coming out and playing, from juniors to seniors, scratch golfers. It provides a really unique experience that I think is really well received in the community. When you look at Torrey Pines, I mean, that in itself is just a fantastic property to be associated with, and we're definitely lucky to have that. We have 2 world-renowned golf courses where they're both in the top 100 of courses that you can play, which is a distinction that we just earned this year and that we're really proud of. So I think we obviously have great strength in the properties that we have, but it's always interesting for us too to get an idea of what our customers are thinking as well. So on a biannual basis, what we do is contract with a third party to conduct our surveys. And you can see here our latest survey, which was conducted just this last July. We have very high numbers when it comes to the customer satisfaction. Every single one of our properties are trending above 95%. There was a noticeable increase from FY19 to FY21. Last year when we provided the update, we noticed that these numbers seemed like they were skewed due to the fact of the timing when we did the 19 report. That one was conducted in February and March, where we believe weather and those types of course conditions started to drag down on some of the properties. And so we went back to our historical time frame of July and August to conduct the survey. And there's definitely a strong correlation in how those numbers came out. So there were some recommendations that are consistent with years past, but there are some new ones as well. The report recommended that customers would like to see an improved availability of tee time reservations at Torrey Pines. That isn't a new thing for us with the demand that we generally see at Torrey Pines, but at Balboa Park Golf Course, that was one where it was definitely new. Since the closures that we've had for COVID, which started in March and carried us through for about 6 weeks, we've seen substantial increase in the amount of play at all of our facilities. So that in itself, I think, contributed to players being interested in seeing an improvement in our tee time reservation availability. Other things that were noted were improving the conditions of the restroom at Balboa Park Golf Course, while over at Mission Bay, they were interested in seeing an improvement of the overall course conditions. Both of those are going to be items that we are addressing through our capital improvement program. We'll talk a little bit more about those later on, but those were the findings that we had seen in our report. 2020 was definitely an interesting year for us. Obviously, things were challenging with the closures for COVID. Overall, we did see a decrease in the overall rounds. We went from 320,000 in FY19 to 305,000. That represents basically a 5% decrease in the amount of rounds played. But when we look at being closed for 6 months, or excuse me, 6 weeks, that trend is still actually in a pretty good place. I think one thing of note on this particular slide that is interesting, when you look over at the 9-hole at Balboa Park Golf Course, you can see we actually had an increase in rounds, even compared to last year with that 6-week closure. That really shows how big the demand growth was at our facilities. Obviously, we didn't have as much room to make up those things at Torrey Pines to be able to cover that gap, but we're really looking forward to what this next year holds for us, barring that we are able to still continue and stay open as a socially distant, responsible sport. So for the golf division, rounds and revenue really go hand in hand. So here's a slide that shows our financial picture for FY20. It definitely shows that there was a decrease in overall revenue. We went from just under 25,000 in FY19, and we were able to finish the year in FY20 with just over 23 million. The good thing is we obviously covered our expenses, but we were still able to put about $4 million into our capital improvement program. Now, being an enterprise fund, any additional revenues that we receive from green fees, those are always put into our capital improvement program. As we spoke about earlier with the customer satisfaction survey, we have been looking to address those concerns through our program here. And you can see that the bathroom renovation at Balboa Park Golf Course is one that we are currently working on. It is in the design process right now. We're hoping to have this completed by the end of next calendar year. So that will be something that customers there will be able to enjoy in the years to come. The Mission Bay Golf Course project, we are working on improving the irrigation and the lighting that's at that particular facility. Included in that is the demolition of the clubhouse and an installation of a new portable building, and there would also be a new restaurant that would be in that area. So I think both of these projects are going to be great for our patrons and will really help out with their overall experience. And then we have Torrey Pines. Torrey Pines has a few projects that are in the works here. The North Course Drainage Project, that is one that is going to be conducted in fiscal year 22, I believe, and is going to be pushed out past the US Open, so we're able to work with that. In the coming months, we are going to be working on the US Open Championship driving range. That's going to commence right after this year's Farmers Insurance Open in February. That is going to be one that converts basically the driving range tee that the US Open will be able to utilize during their event. One other project that we were looking to start funding here is the Torrey Pines Clubhouse project. That right now would primarily be more of an opportunity for us to contract with the designers who had worked on the previous plans, which were done back in 2005, update them a little bit and bring them more to a current status of where we projected it may be going. So next year we'll hopefully have some designs or things like that we could share with you. But those are kind of the projects that we've been looking at in the near term. One thing that we thought would be important for all of your members to know is that we're planning on raising green fees at all courses except for the South course, effective January 1st. The 2012 business plan was a rolling business plan that allowed us to the flexibility to work in rate increases, 3% for residents and 5% for non-residents. And that really works out to about $1 for residents during the weekdays, potentially $2 on the weekends. When you talk about the non-resident green fee, the most substantial increase is going to be on the North course, which would be approximately $7 on the weekend. Two things that we are going to be keeping consistent is going to be the resident ID card as well as the junior monthly ticket. The junior monthly ticket is $10.50, and it allows players to play at different times at all of our facilities throughout the month. And so it's been definitely a program that people have enjoyed, and we look forward to continuing that. 2020 did have a lot of accomplishments for us. One of the things that we began working on was a new RFP for a cart fleet at Balboa Park Golf Course. The lease that the RFP actually was for all of our facilities, but Balboa Park Golf Course will have the largest impact. It is our largest fleet. We are coming to the end of the lease term on that, and hopefully at the beginning, a little after the beginning of the new year, we'll have a new fleet of golf carts for customers to enjoy. One of the things that we've really been trying to do in the golf division is push technology and try and get out there to draw in new customers, specifically over at Mission Bay Golf Course. Disc and foot golf represents nearly 10% of our overall play. And one of the things that we wanted to do was be unique in the fact of offering a GPS guided disc golf experience. And so this is now accomplished through our app. We really want to be able to draw in these new customers and be able to offer them some new offerings. And I think this has been really well received by the public. Torrey Pines too has had some great things happen in the last year. We did complete the South Course renovation project, which was a $17 million improvement to the property, where it covered improving the irrigation system, realignment of some tee boxes, some bunkers. It was definitely a long-term endeavor. It took us about 9 months to complete, but that too has definitely helped us. It was well received by the PGA Tour and also from the public here. So I think it's been a great renovation for the golf course. In addition, the advanced reservation program has gone solely online, and that completed its first year, which was a great success. As things progress throughout the year, and we've seen customers actually really enjoy being able to secure tee times up to 90 days in advance. After the pandemic, there was definitely an increase in demand, and I think customers have definitely enjoyed being able to secure their reservations well in advance. In addition, over the last year, we had our online resident ID card purchases go solely online, and there was reasons for that. Primarily, we've always intended to go online with that to help save staff time, make it more convenient for customers, but also with trying to reduce touch points throughout the facility. It has definitely allowed not only patrons to be safe, but staff to be safe as well when people are coming in to take care of their ID cards. As I mentioned earlier, Torrey Pines has actually received the honor of 2 golf courses in the top. Course was redesigned a few years ago, and it took us a little time to get the notoriety that had gone along with the redesign, but the North Course broke the top 100 and got to number 93 as one of the top 100 golf courses that you can play. The South Course is still doing great. It's at 36 out of the top 100. Another initiative that we've really been trying to capitalize on over the last few years is our marketing. Over the past few years, we have gotten ourselves over multiple different platforms from Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Now we have 12,000 unique followers looking into the information that we're putting out there. Our app, which you can see over here on the right-hand side, is already had 15,000 downloads. And that really helps us to be able to work directly with the customers whenever we need to get information out to them. And that's been a great added benefit for us. And I think it's been an added benefit to guests who are looking to play here. Not only in this app, they can check their online credentials, purchase resident ID cards, and book tee times all in one convenient place. So for us, we've got a lot of great things ahead of us. Obviously, we're going to be putting any of the excess revenue that we make throughout the year to our capital improvement projects to improve all of our golf courses. But we've got a very busy year ahead. In the next couple months, we're going to be hosting the Farmers Insurance Open in June. It's the 2021 U.S. Open Golf Championship. Followed by 6 months later, another Farmers Insurance Open. So we're really excited for this year. It's going to be interesting and it'll be exciting. And I know by the time we come back next year, we'll have some great information to share with you. But that concludes our presentation. If you do have any questions, I would be more than happy to help. And we also have Mr. Scott Bentley, the Assistant Deputy Director here to assist with any questions that you may have. So I appreciate your time today and look forward to your questions.
All right, I'll start. This is Nick. Is there anything in the future to get an upgraded clubhouse for Balboa Park?
Currently, at this time, we do not have a project that's slated to work on at Balboa Park Golf Course. So
I just think that could be such a much nicer golf course if it gets a few amenities. But anyhow, okay.
Thanks, Nick. And I'll also add to that, the clubhouse at Balboa Park was created or was given a general development plan that was approved by the board several years ago. At this time, we are unable to afford construction of that plan. So the plan remains in stasis until such time we can realize enough funding to allow for that to proceed. Thank you.
Okay. Raise the fees a little bit more.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you. Since this is an information item, the board does not need to take any action or vote. However,
okay.
And with that, if there is not any other questions or comments, our next meeting will be on January the 21st, 2021 at 2 p.m. And you will be kept updated in regards to that meeting and what may be on the agenda. With that, go ahead. Sorry.
Just for the record, there was no public comment for that agenda item.
Thank you. Apologize. With that, if there are no other business, I will now adjourn the Park and Rec Board meeting and we'll begin the Regional Park Improvement Fund Oversight Committee meeting. Again, welcome to the Regional Park Improvement Fund Oversight Committee. Non-agenda public comments. We will now move to non-agenda public comments. The public was invited to submit public comments on agenda and non-agenda items by web form accessible through the agenda and the Park and Recreation website. Marisol Aguilar will read aloud public comments submitted per city public comment protocol. Were there any public comments? I believe there was one.
Yes, this is Kimberly Carroll with the city. I will go ahead and read the one received public comment. Hello, I'm representing the OB Families Association along with the OB Planning Board's Ad Hoc Parks Committee in the hopes that the Parks Improvement Oversight Board will reserve some funding for updating the play and recreation spaces in Ocean Beach. Our playgrounds in particular are in need of updating. Many are not ADA accessible and have aging equipment. A substrate and equipment update would be much appreciated by the children and families in our community. There is also much need for an expansion of adult recreation and fitness areas in our area. We are in the process of compiling a presentation for community recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe that was the only one, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. First, we have the approval of the September 17th, 2020 minutes. I hope everyone had the opportunity to review the minutes from the September meeting. And I would accept a motion for the minutes.
This is Nick, so moved.
Second. Who would second it?
Your speaker's not on.
No, it's on.
Second.
David, your microphone is off. Microphone is off.
It's off again.
I second it. Dave Barron second.
Okay. So it was a motion and a second, and I will go through the vote. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Nick Oswald. Nick.
Aye.
David Byron.
Aye.
Marcella Bothwell.
Aye.
Rick Gully. Rick.
Sorry, here.
Bobby Hughes. Bobby Hughes. Noli Zosa.
I'm sorry, Chair, what are we voting on again? I stepped away for a second.
The minutes for the September.
Okay. Yeah, I have to abstain. Thank you. That's what I thought. Abstain.
Okay, thank you. So the motion is approved with
Mr. Osushi, would you like me to read what I have?
yes.
Okay. Nick Anastopoulos, yes. David Barron, yes. John Becker, absent. Marcella Bothwell, yes. Ron Cho, absent. Rick Gully, yes. Bobby Hughes, no response. Catherine Johnson, Allison, Ali Souza, Dennis Osuchi, yes. So I have 5 yeses, 3 absences, 1 abstention, and I'm not sure how to count Mr. Hughes.
Bobby Hughes was not at the meeting last time, so he could be as abstain since he wasn't at the last meeting to vote anyway. He would have to abstain.
So the
It
motion,
has been noted.
so the motion passes. Thank you. What was the final vote again, just for the record? Nancy?
I have 5 yeses, 3 absences, and 2 abstentions.
Thank you. Request for continuance. I believe there is none. Action item. We do not have any action items. Information item. And we will move to those. We have 2. The first one being the 2001 Mission Bay lease revenue fiscal year 2020. And I will turn it over to Ryan Barbrick.
Good afternoon. This is Ryan Barbrick, Parks and Recreation. So the first item is our yearly update of the Mission Bay lease revenue that we bring to you. This is an informational item. So what we usually do is we present the item to you for review. And if you have any questions, we can take those down and review them with our Department of Finance and get back to you. So I'm open for any questions that you may have.
None.
Any other comments or questions? Are there any public comments? Nancy?
There are no public comments.
Okay, thank you. Since this is an information item, the board does not need to take any action or vote. The next information item is the Regional Park Improvement Fund quarterly update.
Ryan Barbrick again. The quarterly update is the when we come to you guys with the list of projects that are currently funded by Regional Park Improvement Funding. That's the document that shows what phase they're in, how much RPIF has been spent, and any comments that our engineering capital projects team has made. So we're here to take any questions you may have on this document.
Any questions or comments? Is there any public comments?
There are no.
Thank you. Since this is an information item, the board does not need to take any action or vote. With that, we will be adjourning the meeting of the Oversight Committee. And the next meeting will be announced by staff, so you'll be updated or kept updated in regards to that meeting. And with that, happy Thanksgiving, stay safe, and enjoy until we meet again at the next meeting.
Happy New Year and happy holidays to everyone.
Yes. Happy holidays.
Apparently,
We'll
don't stay
reconvene
out
again
late.
in January, unless if there's some need for a meeting in December. So wish you all a happy holiday season, and we'll see you in January, if not sooner. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks.